Guardrails, building in the Middle East.
Well, g'day, Sam. Great to be back with you again, mate. And it's time for our monthly tech roundup for July 2026. How you doing?
Mate, I just can't believe how fast June went by. It's quite scary. I can't believe it's July. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's
Well, halfway through the year already, and yeah, it feels sometimes like feet haven't touched the ground yet.
no, it's usually should be quieting down, but like we're both saying, it's really not. So, let's see what happens during the summertime. It's traditionally does get quieter in the Gulf. Everyone's heading home for a summer break with their kids. So let's wait and see. I think this is the last week of school, so I think we'll probably see the airports busier over the next coming weeks. Roads getting quieter over the next couple of weeks. And usually a good time to catch up on and getting ready for the September into the country. But June, I think June felt like a little bit of a last minute dash in between the conflict in March and April and ahead of the summer break. I don't know about you, but that's what it felt like from our perspective.
Yeah, definitely it did feel like that, and like everyone's trying to get things done before they might be departing on vacations and so on. And so it's been a definite squeeze going into June to get a lot of things at least started or wrapped up and so on. So yeah, definitely feel similarly, mate. Again, speaking of the traffic though, did you see the news about the Etihad Rail now starting their passenger service?
Maybe it's not just from our little bubbles of getting things wrapped up before summer break. Maybe even Etihad Rail had the same notion in mind as well. So yeah, I think that happened this week. They opened it up. It's not really tech, but it's a milestone, a massive milestone for the infrastructure of the UAE, not just Dubai. Which is more and more confidence and building an amazing country. We haven't touched on it before, but just looking into it, I can't wait to check it out, to even jump in it for a little. I haven't been to Fujairah for a long time. Might be a good excuse to get over to Fujairah, and would be there in lightning time as well. 200 kilometers an hour. The travel it travels, but it says in the future it can go up to 350 kilometers an hour. I mean, like it'll be a whole new experience. No one's ever gone that fast on land before.
Yeah, well, I presume not in UAE anyhow, but 350, is that the fastest ever? I'm sure some of them, the Paris ones or the Shinkansen go that speed. Well, maybe it is the fastest. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
No, not the fastest. It's saying currently it can go 200 kilometers an hour, but it said future high-speed rail, it's planning to go to, it's not the fastest, but the future speed, they plan to go to 350. You're correct. There are already other trains out there going that speed.
Well, I tell you what, as well, like as a family outing, the kids love trains. I can tell you from experience. So taking your daughter, our daughters, onto this train is going to be something that they would love as well. What do they call it? There was a nickname that they already had announced for it. Do you have that there in front of you, like the Desert Express, I think it was.
Look, honestly, you're right. Like trains around the world, there's a whole lot of enthusiasts, including myself, love train, journeys. There are so many famous ones that it's kind of like a must do sometime in your life. In the Rocky Mountains in Canada, India has some pretty famous train trips, which aren't cheap by any means. I think my mum's currently in Malaysia doing a train journey around Malaysia through the jungle right now as we speak. So, really they offer something quite different. Imagine that in the Middle East then, we add that to people's bucket list. It's 900 kilometers long. So you got plenty of opportunity and time, but actually goes so fast it probably could be over before you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it puts some of the rail systems we have back home in Australia to shame a little bit. Like I've caught that ex-Sydney to Melbourne train a few times. Oh, wow. And then we've got two of the very famous ones. Haven't had a chance to do in Australia, the India Pacific and the Garn as well, up to Adelaide to Darwin. They're on my bucket list for maybe when I'm reaching retirement age. But yeah, anyhow,
Across
enough.
From west to east of Australia, right? Like
Yeah.
those train
Yeah,
journeys
it used to
as
go
well,
through
like,
my
they're
hometown.
beautiful.
We were on the railway line. So we'd see it occasionally, not every time, but occasionally it will get routed through my hometown of Cootamundra, country New South Wales. I could normally go another way, but sometimes went that way, I guess, due to maintenance. So we would see it coming through occasionally if we were, it was the right time of day. So
Honestly, though, like, I think with the trains, the dodgier the better for an experience, actually. Like, I've done the famous one in Sri Lanka. It's quite beautiful. It probably cost a couple of bucks down to Gull, all the way down to the south of the island. And it's all coastal. It's beautiful, actually. A couple of bucks from Colombo to Gull, half day.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Or to the center of the island to Kandy. Also, that's incredible train trip too. A couple of dollars.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Well, we might have to rename this the Rail Anorak, podcast or something. Maybe
Full pun intended. We've completely gone off track.
Yeah. Nice work there. You're here all week. So let's shall we get into the tech news then? That was a bit of a tangent. And I guess unsurprisingly, AI kind of has much of the headlines this week, with a bunch of stories coming out both globally and specifically in the Gulf region. So shall we? Where would you like to start on the various stories coming through, mate?
Look, the first one I love, actually, which was Dubai government creating new initiatives, which are really AI powered initiatives. They've put this through Dubai municipality and opening up not just to the really big landscaping companies, but to startups, to AI enthusiasts, to actually put together proposals to do landscaping and urban planning and they're calling it the what are they calling it? AI park, but basically it's just a space somewhere in Dubai, and they're putting it to tender, as they always do. All the parks go to tender, all the landscaping goes to tender. Someone's got to win it, but what they're calling AI park simply just because, like, whoever wins this has designed this landscaping using AI purely. So that's why it's different. I don't think there's anything AI in regards to the park, but maybe there could be for the winning tender, for the winning bidder. But pretty cool. Like that, it's a nice use case study of how the government is, I suppose, creating more opportunities and really getting behind AI.
Yeah, and I see here that that the entries must demonstrate how AI tools were used throughout the design process, including spatial planning, climate responsive solutions, user experience analysis, and performance optimization. So it's not like you're going to have, AI infused around the park, but it's a great way of seeing how that planning will come in. And that's going to be, I guess, more and more common, isn't it? When any kind of urban planning comes around, you're going to be seeing how you can leverage AI in the design of those solutions. So it makes sense that they're looking to do that as a part of this tender as well.
My question is, though, like, not question, but what comes to mind is similar to interior design. I need to talk to my mate who has an interior design company, but because technically these things can be created so quickly using AI. I mean, does that bring down the cost of the contract as well. You would imagine maybe yes, maybe no, for the design aspect of the contract. Obviously, the implementation is still going to require humans, and probably the cost is not going to change too much there. But from the design stage, you could only imagine you couldn't quote for the same as they used to quote when humans had to do all that creativity and design aspect of the project.
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I mean, I feel like in many different sectors, and I mean, we've seen some of this as well, that there's a downward pressure on these kind of pricing, and either it's going to be, it could be a different way to look at it. So the pricing might remain the same, but the costs, the timelines come down, or some other kind of permutation around that. The maximum around, you can have a good, cheap, or fast, but pick 2 of 3, I think will still be somewhat true, but AI will just, in this case, perhaps speed things up somewhat. But you still need that, that human touch to bring in the expertise there as well. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting thing to see how that impacts pricing on these kind of very physical initiatives, but are being planned at least and somehow implemented with AI.
I just feel like there's going to be a moving average heading down. Like these vendors, these contractors possibly could get away with making more profit in the short term, but it's going to get more the bidding is just going to get more competitive, and the profits are going to the winning tender cost is going, the price is going to come down, and then therefore, profits probably will be the same at the end of the day as they used to be. Once it all sort of levels out, I suppose that everyone understands how much work goes involved once you utilize AI. So I think like it's just going to be an average moving down, and probably profits for the short term maybe higher, but I don't think for very long when everyone else figures it out too.
But,
This is probably across all industries, right?
Yeah, I think most, if not all, industries will have some impact on this. Like, I wonder how that might impact like a hairdressers or a plumbers, but surely like there will be plays there that we're not even thinking about. Like from the marketing perspective, like the hairdresser doesn't need to spend as much time marketing their business, instead of cutting hair, to make it very simple, because they can use agents and AI to automate some of those elements. If I think about like the abundance play for this, like this specific example with the AI Sapphire 2 Park, I think it's called, that if there is a considerable cost saving there, that means there'll be AI Sapphire 3 Park. So if there are cost savings for the government, then they can reallocate those savings to other initiatives. So it's not like it's a zero-sum game where, okay, they've saved the money here, that they won't necessarily reinvest it elsewhere. It's probably exactly the opposite, where if the government is, or government or private industry saving money on their marketing services, then they will just reallocate that to additional marketing services or other kind of initiatives to utilize that more fully.
100%, right? Like they've got a set annual spend. So if they're able to get it a little bit cheaper and cheaper for the what they used to pay, you're right. That money they're going to focus on still spending that before the end of the financial year and put it into other projects, more projects. So you're right? Like there could actually be more projects as a result, because you said the speed has increased as well. So they can actually now get through more tenders, get through more projects. So you might be right, actually. Yeah, they're not going to, the budget's still there. They still need to spend it. And now they just everyone has more capacity from the government perspective, from the procurement perspective,
Yes.
from the vendor's perspective. So yeah, we should be more productive as a nation and
definitely. I feel like that's a kind of trend that I feel like it will go down. I mean, there will be disruption, certainly. We've talked about, jobs and so on in the past, but I think the net amount in the medium term will be positive. Definitely. That's kind of my perspective. And I'm optimistic by default typically, but that's the direction I see that it will go as well. I mean,
especially for firms like that, right? Like government it's government, right? Like again, when they've got, and even multinationals, right? They have set budgets. Marketing has set budget. Operations or what, or they've all got set budgets, and they typically will spend those budgets. Whatever the budget may be in the next financial year is yet to be seen, and how their metrics and KPIs are put in place. But you're right, they're still just going to spend that money and spend it in other ways. Other obviously smaller companies or other companies, they're just going to just save on costs, I suppose. Like they don't have set budgets on an annual basis. So, but then those small companies with the savings that they make, they would put it elsewhere as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I guess staying close to home in Dubai, other AI related news that I think it's on the 14th of June. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid approved the establishment of an AI and data authority. So it's been talked about as a single body responsible for data, artificial intelligence, and digital government in the UAE, and reports directly to the cabinet. And I'm absolutely certain on the last tech podcast, we talked a lot about the fact that in the UAE and Saudi as well, that it's really the government that kind of aims to provide a regulatory, I guess, frameworks and governance around these kind of things to drive that innovation. And this sounds like yet another great example of that.
It's absolutely essential, isn't it? Like these frameworks need to be in place in order for all of this new economy to flourish positively instead of negatively, right? Like because if we don't have that frameworks, then we become a little bit of a state, right? Because like we're not in control of of all the AI that we have in place, and then we lose trust with other states. So this has to be in there for confidence internally, but also for all the other nations. Like we saw what happened with Chinese communications, right? Like what is it? The 5G towers, the technology, like no one else was manufacturing them. And so they don't even know, this was like last year, right? And then the US, and many countries weren't buying them because like, we don't know actually the technology within it, but then no one else was making 5G towers. So it's a little bit challenging if you don't have that. We just need the trust. We just need, and everyone needs the trust in all the AI that we're building over here. So then we can start selling it to other nations, which is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the governments I see in Europe and even Australia and the US, it's like they're struggling with that side of it, like the governance side. Whereas in the Middle East, due to the way that things are structured and governed, they can move much more quickly on these kind of initiatives, not needing to necessarily go through houses of parliament, these kind of things. So, I mean, in summary, another great step towards the UAE in this case, setting up those frameworks to promote these industries. So a positive thing to see.
Was it Donald Trump? Was it this month as well? Or was it last month where they were going to put some guardrails in place from the government perspective, but then did you see that article? Did you see that headline? But then they stepped away from that because they didn't want to stifle innovation for the American companies. So, but you got to put these guardrails in place for sure. Europe is the complete opposite. Like Europe puts so many guardrails in place. It takes so long for them to actually roll stuff out.
Yeah.
But so that could actually stifle a lot of, for this AI race, from state to state, Europe could actually get quite left behind because of those guardrails. But we need to put some guardrails in place, don't you? Because this can get really quite out of control.
It's definitely a fine line, and there's no easy answer to it, because like if you look at the US, look at what happened with the Claude models with Fable coming out and then disappearing, and then I think we covered that in our last podcast, and then
No, this was just recent, wasn't it? Like I just saw this also like last week where like Fable was removed, wasn't it? I saw this.
So we had they had an earlier model, then they published a newer model, and then that kind of disappeared as well. So it's and that's kind of, it's a very fine line, because there's a new model, open source model from XAI, that's only really just like a few months behind these models, the public models, at least, like Opus 4.8 and OpenAI 5.5. So it's a real fine line between being at the absolute leading edge of these capabilities, but making sure they're done in a safe way while still maintaining a industry lead as well. And if they're, let's say, hypothetically, the Chinese model's 6 months behind, and they put in regulation that holds up development, and they surrender that lead, like, what are the implications of that? Obviously, the US wants to maintain the safety, but they also want to maintain the innovation as well. And you look at like the other, maybe not extreme, but you look at the EU, companies there are. The investment in AI, it just isn't there because of the regulations that are limiting the growth as well. So they've taken, as they often do, a very, very conservative stance on all of this, but it holds back innovation. Like, I don't think you can necessarily argue that. Policymakers there will say, well, it's for the greater good, but the European economies, even pre-AI, weren't necessarily rocket ships either. So
progress with AI compared to US, and right, like we're all utilizing a lot of the US AI products, giving them money, making them money. Further investment goes into those products from investment firms, because we can see the growth there, and then therefore we, meaning outside of US, is really helping the further growth of those US companies. Predominantly making taking over the world, taking who's going to win from this, the guys who are progressing and making the most money, and the widely most used models are the ones that are going to win. So Europe is going to absolutely get, they're out of the race. They're not even in the race, are they? They haven't even. Is there any European AI models? I don't even know of any.
Yeah, there's Mistral, French research lab, but I've not. I mean, they were well known for a while, but to be honest, I've not seen. They might be very active, and maybe I'm just not seeing it. But they're not. They're not certainly at the forefront of what the open source models. They were kind of the best open source model there for a while, but now they're not. I don't see them anywhere, and maybe that's just me. I mean, the UK, if you look at UK and you kind of include that in Europe, then you've got Dennis Hassab is there heading up DeepMind with Google now. Where they are based there, in London, but I mean their ownership is US. The funding all comes now from the US, so you could they are strictly in Europe, assuming you include the UK in that. But yeah, I mean they are part of Google, well and truly.
Space, huh? And then, but I think China is definitely in there. You saw even, I mean, we're going into the sort of global news of the month, but even South Korea, did you see that yesterday? South Korea investing $500 billion in data centers. Obviously, they've got their $2 trillion valuation companies, which is Samsung and what's the other one? Forget the other one. Anyway, yeah, you know the one. But and crazily, I just also heard like they take those two companies alone take like 50% of their main stock market as well. So it's completely over leveraged Which one?
SK
What is it?
Hynix. SK Hynix.
That's the one. That's the
Another,
one.
So, one of those $1 billion companies or $1 trillion companies that you don't
Trillion
even.
now.
Yeah.
Don't even know until we actually did the research last podcast, and they said they're doing that so then they also can stay competitive with Japan and China and Taiwan as well. So like, Asia is making a play and making a stance. You would say the UAE and now Saudi from the Middle East perspective is making a play where we just discuss that Europe is not. And obviously we're all a little bit competing against US. So be interesting to see how the Middle East players come out of this race at the end of the day, and maybe there will be a part that will survive. Definitely a future crash coming, which possibly I think this is one of our topics as well. Has got to be due to AI for one reason or another, you would imagine, with so much money going into everything. Like just that one point, South Korea's market is completely leveraged towards two companies, which are AI companies or tech companies. Similarly with the US stock market, they're so hyper leveraged.
Yeah, 40% of the stock market in the US is made up of the 8 or 10 leading tech funds, like 40%. Like, so it's a crazy amount. I mean, speaking about the investment as well, like I guess one last bit of homegrown news, and I don't know if it's a bit of a sensationalist headline, but known as the Donald of Dubai, because of, I guess his ties into the real estate, but Hussein Sajwani, the founder of DAMAC Properties, he's committed to a $66 billion AI investment. And and I mean, this is the newspaper we're reporting this from, saying that he wants to become the world data king, and this is part of I think it's called DAMAC Digital, is it? So yeah, like they're looking for a 6,000 megawatt land bank. So yeah, more big news coming out of some of the key holders of these kind of innovations in the UAE as well.
I mean, it's extremely brave after what just happened in March with AWS. It's crazy, isn't it? Like so much money that's going to be putting data centers, you'd imagine. Actually, you'd imagine it would be in UAE.
Well, it's going to be across 13 countries, so across North America, Europe, Middle East definitely, but it's kind of hedged across the globe. So right. Yeah, not solely in the UAE, but being led by a very prominent UAE investor.
It seems very outside of his remit. But he's going where the money is, and those data centers are just absolutely like. Have you seen any of those videos? I think I shared one with you. They're just so big, aren't they? Those data centers are absolute farms, like U.S. farm size of buildings and of. Oh my goodness, they're just feel bad, like they're doing stupid prompts, and chewing up the power of these data centers for absolute rubbish.
Yeah. It's I mean, I don't know about you, but I find myself like by default now, what I would have gone to Google before, I'm spending, probably 10, 20 times as much electricity to go and ask Claude or Grok or something similar about, what's the capital of such and such country, or who scored the most points in the NBA last year. Like, what were Google searches before are now being powered by AI.
Because it's so convenient, isn't it? Like, it's just so, like, it gives you and I love the responses. I find the response rate has become so much easier to consume as well. And it gives like, it's not too much, not too little. It's to the point. I mean, like the results you would say is far more advanced than what Google does. Like Gemini is trying to, Gemini is doing a pretty good job with the results as well, with what it's spitting out. Was there an article here? I think I saw something in regards to just about that with the search queries or something. Was there?
I'm not sure. While you look at that one, I tell you something I am using. So I mentioned I was talking about I use Grok or Claude, but actually one of my preferred searches is I'll go into the Google app on my phone, but I'll go into AI mode, and because it's got the context of your location, so it's got Google Maps data, it's got obviously all the Google data. It is really, really good, and it's fast. So the responses you get from it, I wish maybe you can somehow make the AI mode the default mode, but it's really, really good. So if you haven't tried that one out yet, on the Google app, Google search app, they've got the AI mode now, at least on the iPhone, and that works really, really well.
So that's a nice segue. It's point number 4, actually. It actually said, so e-commerce is definitely changing, and like what we just discussed, how we search and find things is obviously changing as well. I recently just saw that 15 to 25% of searches are now happening on the LLMs. Still 75 to 85 is happening in Google, and then 5% happening on everywhere else, such as like Bing and Yahoo search and whatever else there is. So like the volume of searches happening on the LLMs is rapidly increasing month on month. And that's not just, I mean, that's search for whatever, right? And that's also includes for shopping too. So, this article said the UAE shoppers are increasingly using these LLMs for finding products, right? So it said here 49%. I don't know where they got that data from, but it definitely is changing, and you need to make sure like your products, 51% of UAE shoppers, yeah, are now using AI tools for the online shopping. So it'd be super. Look, I think it would be a game changer when you can actually purchase those products through the LLMs. Could you imagine that? Like that's complete game changer. But we've always been waiting, and it's never been rolled out in Instagram. You know, people thought e-commerce websites would be dead when it's only in US, from my knowledge, where you can have your online shop and pay for that online purchase through Instagram. But that's just for the US market. This was like 10 years ago, I think, maybe even a little bit more. And it was, if that got rolled, like I do see that as a huge risk for e-commerce websites, right? Like if Instagram, you can actually buy those products that people are talking about through Instagram as well, meaning pay for it and get it delivered, then it's super convenient. If LLMs can figure that out, like also massive game changer.
Well, I saw even like it going in that direction in only in the last couple of weeks. It's not part of our agenda, but it's a very interesting point that Stripe, who is one of the leading payment gateways across the globe, and has always been very much on the edge of innovation when it comes to being developer friendly and so on. They've released frameworks allowing agentic purchasing. And so you can basically, they will be the framework for it, but enabling it through whichever is your preferred AI modality or framework. So then basically you can give like spending limits, you can give approval mechanisms. So it will go, you tell your open to go away and find me this, and then it will find it, and then you'll have a button that will, to approve a purchase, or it might have above or below a certain threshold, it might automatically approve that. So that's very interesting.
That's how it's going to happen, isn't it? Yeah, that's how it's going to happen, because like already our phones have all of our card details, right? So yeah, and then if you've got a little agent doing that shopping for you as well, then it's really going to be very, very easy to shop. That's probably, yes. That's going to how it's going to be a different type of online shopping experience, actually, compared to, going to an Amazon or something like that to find your products, or just the LLM just showing you products, or in Google Merchant, right? Google Merchant will show all the products. You click on that, it takes you to the store to purchase it. This is a game changer, again, for convenience and speed.
Well, I had my own agentic kind of experience with shopping recently, where I, I was looking on Amazon for some supplements, and so I'm like, okay, these are the supplements I want. These are the parameters. Can you go away and find me the the best review, cost-effective recommendation for it? And so I'm using a the Claude in the browser in Chrome to go there and do that for me. So I give it instructions. So it's not even doing it's not even really doing it programmatically, which is where the future will be. Right now, it's just going to the website, clicking, taking screenshots, navigating to somewhere else, looking at that screenshot, doing all that very, very inefficiently, and and just through the front end. But it still came back at the end. Like I let it run for 20 minutes or whatever it took, come back. And it's something I just don't need to think about. I just set it and come back later and check the results. And it come up with, we recommend this is the option A, and this one is like the budget option. And then, there's link, and then I can add it to my cart. So it's not fully agentic, but it's a hint of what it will look like. So the future will have something like you just go onto your phone, say, find me the best vitamin D supplement. And it knows, it has maybe your medical records. It knows, okay, well, Damian needs this amount of, daily because he's this
200
old.
milligrams per
Yes,
day.
exactly. Then it will go to multiple, e-commerce websites, and then maybe the supplement costs, 50 dirhams, and it's got approval up to 100 dirhams, and said, yep, that's done, and it will, be at your house tomorrow.
To be fair,
that's where it'll end up.
And I just saw an article yesterday about that. And I totally see how cool AI, AI is so intelligent already. And when it knows all your vitals. So for the health sector, even though it's kind of sounds bad to be saying this, where you should really be getting that advice from a professional doctor. But to be fair, if it has all your vitals, if you've got, all those hardwares and tracking
wearables,
devices, wearables, right? It actually could make a pretty good educated decision of exactly which product would be best for you to purchase.
Oh, definitely. And I can go off on a long tangent on healthcare and AI, but two very short anecdotes. I every 6 months get blood tests done, like just health stuff, like vitamin levels and your fasting glucose and all that stuff. And but I've got a history of this, and it's all living inside my AI as well. I've got 20 analysis done from years ago. Plug that in there too, so it's got all my my genetics as well.
True.
And so obviously I'm showing a lot of faith in what the models can have, but now it's saying, okay, well, you need to think about taking this specific supplement for you, maybe removing this supplement because for X and Y reason. But that's the future of it. And then ideally, you'd have some kind of, and I just in the prompting, I say, okay, about the Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia and Rhonda Patrick, is it? Health, preventative health. So you're an expert in these. What do you recommend for me based on what you have there? So this is something that is already very, very possible. And then you could take those recommendations or the summary of it, go to your GP if you needed a prescription. So this is the data. This is what's recommended. And that's kind of where it's going to go.
I think you're pretty safe as long as you've fed it all the right, enough data about yourself, right? About your current vitals. And also, like you said, historic data as well, so it can start to see some trends.
Trends. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to be careful of false positives and so on. But did you see the story? And it's not in the last month, but the founder of GitLab. So this is a very wealthy individual. He got diagnosed with cancer, and
GitLab or GitHub?
GitLab. So they're a competitor to GitHub. So the founder of GitLab, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he tried traditional treatment remedies. And anyway, he went, in the article I read about it, he went founder mode on his own cancer, basically took the treatment of it in his own hands, and went. He had the luxury of money, so he could go and get all these specialized tests, and basically fed all the data into into an AI that he'd been building up. And he's obviously very, very conversant with AI, and was able to come up with a very, very unique treatment regime for himself, and it was, you know, successful. Now that's not available to everyone, because he had, for lack of a better way of saying it, kind of infinite resources to be able to do that. But that's a glimpse of what will become more evenly distributed in the future as well, which is pretty cool.
It's really cool, right? Like if actually you can make a positive impact, maybe not on the extreme level of cancer, but if you can even just tweak, you know, your daily health, right? So more energy would be fantastic, right? And lack of energy could be from so many reasons, right? Lack of sleep or a particular vitamin. So if you can diagnose that, right? If you get, like, as we all get old, we're going to be deficient with something here or there or there. So like, if we can get the right data in place, I'm sure there's probably already plenty of apps out there already that's already figured this out and built this. We probably don't even need to build something like that. There probably could be an app which is a trusted app where we can just plug in everything and actually could probably do it for us. But like you said, it's so easy to build this yourself if you have some creativity and logic, and the data, most importantly, to feed it.
Yeah, exactly right, mate.
Yeah, so the death of search, that was the headline. I don't think death of traditional search is it's probably going to decrease, but I mean, it's still 75 to 85% of all search queries on Google. So I was thinking about this morning, I think it definitely will decrease, but there's still a shitload of search queries there for companies to capitalize on for now.
Yeah, and you know, people, you know, 12, 18 months ago were saying, oh, well, this is the end of Google, they're behind. But actually they hit record revenues again, like with search and advertising. So even if there's a pivot towards AI-led search queries, Google is still at the front of that. And so they've still, you know, going exceptionally well, when not that long ago people were saying, well, that's the end of Google. They've got one product that makes up, you know, 90% of the revenues, but actually it's hitting new records still.
Kind of want to lose that revenue, right? They're going to compete with this, and they're going to try, and they guarantee Google's going to match whatever comes out. You know, they're going to stay in this game for sure.
Well, I mean, Google's a dark horse in a way. Like, they don't get anywhere near the headlines of Claude or OpenAI, but they've got all the data. They've got YouTube. They've got like Google Maps. They've got like so much data. And whilst their models, in my opinion, as well, are not overly impressive compared to some of the others, you just cannot count them out with, you know, Dennis there and at the head of it all, and all that data. I mean, they're going to come out with something very impressive.
Look, I think it is impressive. I think Gemini is good, but I saw something just recently where someone defined each of them very well. You know, Claude is great for coding and programming. Gemini probably good for something else, and ChatGPT good for something else, and Grok good for something else. So like, that probably may be how it's all going to work, or maybe they will all just be as good as each other when they all sort of blend together, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, we have to wait and see. What do you think?
Well, if you look at like the performance metrics, I mean, they end up being surprisingly close. Like, if you look at all the testing that they do and the performance evaluations that they have, they all end up being like surprisingly close to each other, which is crazy. I think a lot of it comes down to the harness that you put around it. So it's not just, you know, Opus 4.8. It's utilizing something like Claude Code or Cowork with context as well. That's what, you know, what we discussed in the last podcast. Now, whether I'm utilizing Opus or OpenAI, you know, or some other model, open source model, if you've got a strong harness and great context, then you don't need
Use any
to
of
be
them,
the
maybe.
absolute. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be like the best model in the world. Like, so and that's where I like Claude the most, because it's got, I think I haven't used Codex or anything like that, but for what I want it for, it works exceptionally well. But I've been curious about, and this kind of brings on to another one of our stories, around utilizing an Android phone to get, well, like what Google announced, I think, last month, around new innovations in, Gemini and the integration into their phones. Now, that will only be available on the Pixel phones to start with, but eventually will kind of disseminate out there. But I think you're an Android user, right?
Very. Yeah, I do. I mean, I just love Google and Android
Mm,
as well. Of course, that's actually, I never thought about that actually. But that's actually a very good point. That's the other thing, isn't it? Like Android is so widely distributed across
hmm
all handheld devices. So then therefore, like Gemini can dominate through Chrome, right? Because again, you have to look at Chrome. Like I think I saw recently, it's like 95% today of browser users are using Chrome, right? So like then straight away, like you're already dominating the market. So to introduce any new product or so, and you can just like you said today, like the using Gemini for search instead of using Chrome or using, Google search. Straight away, people's habits are changing, and they've already got the domination from the operating system perspective, and also from the browser perspective. Like
Mm.
they can roll
I
out
couldn't help
Gemini
but look
very
this up,
easily.
and it's a very fragmented market, but Android has 70% of the smartphone market. Yeah, and now I'm an Apple
A
user.
little bit more.
Yeah, well, globally, apparently it's 70.75% as of 2026. iOS makes up the bulk of the remainder, 28.7%. But it varies according to market. So in the US, the majority market is iOS, 58%. But if you look at India, it's 92% Android. So,
And
yeah,
UAE, UAE perspective, you would probably, like most people have more than one device actually, but you would probably say, and our customers usually like to go iOS, right? Just because like everyone will probably have an Apple, but then maybe they have an Android for work.
yeah. I looked up the Chrome usage, and it says here, I think this is low. I don't know if I trust this figure, but it's telling me that 65 to 70% of global market share is Chrome.
No chance. No chance. That's not
Safari is
correct. Like,
16%. Yeah, I think that's quite
yeah,
low. But either
I
way,
don't
whether
think
it's
so.
60 or 90%, and Google with Chrome, Android have just
A-
so much,
And the
available
operating
to them,
system. Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
operating
Yeah. And
system.
then, like you said,
Yeah.
all the other services, which are free, maps, like I
Mm.
mean, there's so many services, and
Well,
then the whole suite within Google Workspace or
yeah.
your Google
Oh, Google.
account.
Yeah.
So it's like so much
Gmail,
value.
mate. So,
Gmail
um,
alone is like, and then
yeah.
stuff is they I can never write them off. And they're just, like you said, they're just getting wealthier and wealthier as a country, and the founders as well. I think they just did. I just see like they just
Yeah.
second
Yeah,
wealthiest now.
Larry
I
and
think
Sergey. I
they
think they're
just
second and third at the
passed
moment behind Elon.
Elon, and I think they just surpassed Jeff as well. So
Yeah.
their shares are growing.
Larry
And
Ellison was right up there too. Yeah.
talking about Google, one of the other global additions is that's super interesting. Apple made a $1 billion deal to utilize Gemini. This is a perfect segue for Siri. I
Y-
love that article actually. Like it makes a lot of sense. And what people are saying is like, okay, again, something I heard last week. Apple is not getting into this, race, which is very
Yeah.
clever. And they're just gonna like we're gonna focus on the hardware. We're gonna just focus like they're exceptional when it comes to hardware. They've got ecosystems, but they're not getting into the AI race or for and what do you think?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on this because Siri, which was released, God, more than a decade ago, has been pretty terrible. Since it was released, like it had basic capabilities when they acquired that company that made Siri, but it still was just so far behind. And 2 years ago now, they made announcements around what would be possible with Siri and AI, and it never came together at all for them. So only now are they're by this partnership with Google, powered by Gemini, and Apple flavoring on top of it to make it secure and all that, private. Only now are we starting to get some of the capabilities that were promised to us a long time ago, and that were very, very possible already utilize on some Android phones at least. So as an iPhone user, it feels like it's long overdue. But maybe I just want too much out of these guys. But yeah, I mean, people have been complaining about how terrible Siri, which is, the iOS interface for your AI, it's just been terrible. But finally, only through partnering with Google, are they getting this? And by all accounts, the beta testers utilizing the software beta are saying, yeah, it works. It'll work. It does what it said it was going to do, and it's not bug free, but it's working quite well by all accounts.
I guess like if they're going to not get in the race with AI, like it kind of seems like they should have, and why wouldn't they? Because they do fantastic software, but they haven't yet still. And it doesn't seem like they're going to get into it by any reports. So they just damn better do a fantastic job in the future with the hardware. If they still stay sleepy with not innovating enough when it comes to the hardware releases, then they just drift by. They're still making tons of money though.
Well, I mean, 2 points on that. It's one point is, yes, it's a hardware, but it's also the moat that they talk about. Like you've got, I'm wearing AirPods now, talking on my MacBook, and it all kind of works together very well, which no one else has been able to remedy that. So even though they've been certainly lagging on the AI, I could always open, ChatGPT on my phone. Now it's not tightly integrated, but that's the power that they have is because you're within their ecosystem. And they've got a very good reputation when it comes to privacy. You'll kind of be more default
and
trusted
security.
And security. So much more so than Android does or anything. So they've got that benefit and reputation behind them as well, which will, even if they're lagging a little bit, like we saw, they've still got a massive market share, even though they've got very expensive devices. And they, record revenues all the time and their services are growing and everything like that. But what's interesting
I kind of like it as well. I kind of like it how they just said, we're not going to do this. We're just going to focus on our core strengths, which is, let's maybe say hardware and look after our customers within this moat. And we don't have to do everything. I kind of like that. That's kind of like, it just says, we're not following the rest of you guys by trying to compete on the same sector which is AI, race. Right? Like we're all, like Google's search and social media is Mark Zuckerberg, and you've got Apple doing hardware, and you've got like Nvidia doing chips, but now like everyone wants to get into AI. But I like that how they're just saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to just focus on what we have.
Yeah, and if you look at it from another perspective as well, like I agree completely what you're saying. Like the amount, as we talked about earlier, the amount of investment going into AI is just bonkers, right? So billions and billions from the labs are going into building out these modules. So they're making all the capex here. Apple's avoiding all of that. Like so, Google, well, they're making their own chips as well, but Anthropic,
they spent $1 billion, and now they've got Gemini, right? Like they didn't have to do tens or hundreds of billions to actually have their own in-house team to actually build this out and compete. So that's
and the data centers,
cheap
and
sort
all
of like contract actually to utilize one of the best out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I'm as much I wanted Siri to be smarter 2 years ago. They're finally there, and perhaps they're the smartest ones of them all. AIs could end up being a race to the bottom cost-wise, and could be just completely commodified. And Apple is still there to to sell their ecosystem and their devices. So.
But did you see what Bernie Sanders was doing? I kind of like that, where he was like, I know we're completely out of time, but I kind of did like where this conversation, maybe this will come up in our next month podcast, which is like Bernie Sanders putting his hand up and saying, hey guys, these tech giants, these AI giants, like, with the, you got to start giving some money back to the government, like giving it back for the government to spend, like whether maybe they become government backed assets, which will be super interesting for like, I can't wait to see what happens here. And, I think in the future, it's going to be that if that happens, it'll be great for Americans, won't be great for the rest of the world who's paying these AI companies subscriptions. None of that money is going to go back to the rest of the world, but America is going to do extremely well. If if the government acquires these companies and actually takes money from these companies, that'd be like, it kind of makes sense where the world is heading.
Yeah. Interesting topic indeed, mate. But it's Bernie being Bernie, that's for sure. Well, I think I think we're about out of time anyhow, mate. So we skipped a few stories, but we covered a lot of interesting ground today. And another, I wonder if we'll ever have a quiet month when it comes to tech news, but maybe this summer we'll see about that. But yeah, lovely catching up with you, mate.
Honestly, there's always too much to talk about. I can't believe how fast it goes, and I don't think it's ever going to be a quiet month. When it continues to skyrocket, and I think eventually when it all crashes down as well, there's going to be as much to talk about at that stage as well. When it starts to get a little bit negative and scary. So watch the space. We'll do this again, same time next month, and we'll for 2 wacky stories next month instead.
Yeah, we missed out on that one. Brilliant. All right, mate. Great catching up, Sam, and we'll talk again soon, mate.
Thanks, Damo. Have a good month.
Cheers, mate.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Subscribe for more stories from the Gulf.